Hello all and welcome to TVM Academy. This is VARC 100, a free practice course for CAT verbal section. RC number 14, the link was shared on our Telegram group. It was also sent to your registered email IDs. If you have not signed up for this course yet, you can do so on our portal. The link is available in the description of this video. Let's begin. A quick synopsis of the passage first. So it was an interesting read and possibly a challenging read for many of you. In the first paragraph, author argues that people do not readily recognize that acts such as imprisonment are acts of evil, even if they are done as punishment or justice. So a criminal has committed an act of evil, yes, but if we give him imprisonment, if we apportion a sentence of imprisonment, we are also committing an act of evil. Author is of this viewpoint. In the second paragraph, author draws a parallel between people's readiness to ignore the fact that imprisonment is an act of evil and their stupidity in ignoring the fact that poverty is also an evil. So from a discussion on imprisonment, author makes a transition to a discussion on poverty. This is a discursive passage, a digressive passage. From one point, author makes a transition and he starts discussing another point altogether. In such discursive passages, where the point of departure is not the same as point of arrival, where author starts his discussion on a different subject topic and ends it at a different subject topic. Remember, the point of arrival is more important. In this case, the point of arrival is poverty. Therefore, question number one, the passage is most probably intended to. Option A, serve as an introduction to a more detailed discussion on poverty. Yes, could be the answer. To censure imprisonment as a punitive measure. Yes, he does so, but it's a narrow point. It only captures the first para. So this is the point of departure. This is the point of discussion in the first half of the passage. But as I said, if there's a conflict between point of departure and point of arrival, then always go with point of arrival as the main idea or the main point that author wanted to make, because there is no sense for the author to end at a tangential note. He can begin the discussion with any topic, but he usually and mostly, in fact, he mostly ends his discussion with his main point. So therefore, option B is narrow. It only captures the first para. A is better. Option C, to analyze the possible repercussions of social evils. Wait, author never talks about the consequences of social evil. And even if he does, it's not the main focus of the passage, the consequences part, alien idea. Also, author's discussion is limited to poverty and imprisonment and not too broad or too general as option C presents. Option D, to continue a prior discussion of strong measures against social evils. Author is against strong measures. He says if you take strong measures against social evils, you are also committing evil, ultimately. So this is, in a sense, opposite to what the passage says, or at least alien to the discussion. Option A is the correct answer. Question 2, it can be inferred from the passage that the author would agree with all of the following except, okay, let's see. Option A, most people don't realize that by punishing offenders, they are surrendering themselves to a vicious cycle of crime and punishment. Author would agree with this point. According to the author, in fact, his main point is punishing a criminal is as much an act of evil as the crime itself is. So by punishing the offenders, you are surrendering yourself to a vicious cycle of crime and punishment where you are countering one evil with another evil. That is his main point. So yes, he will agree, not the answer. Option B, sentences of imprisonment have little success in reducing crime rate in society. He has argued he has argued that if the robber knows that he is caught, he will be given sentence of imprisonment. He would rather shoot you. Therefore, sentences of imprisonment do not act as deterrent. They have little success in reducing the crime rate in society. He would agree with this point as well, not the answer. It would be ridiculous to inoculate people suffering with chickenpox from suffering from chickenpox with smallpox. It would be ridiculous to do so. Yes, author has explicitly argued that it is ridiculous. So he would agree with this point as well, not the answer. If criminals were not strongly punished for their misdeeds, there would be no law and order in society. Option D goes in favor of strong punishment. Author is against strong punishment. He's, in fact, his main argument, core argument is this, that strong punishment such as imprisonment is an act of evil. Therefore, this is opposite to author's viewpoint. He's not in favor of strong punishment. Option D is the answer. Author's argument about imprisonment would be most weakened by showing that, okay, by showing that, okay. Option A. Now, please understand, author has based his argument about imprisonment, that imprisonment is an act of evil, on an analogy. He says, to prove his point, he has drawn an analogy, and in this analogy, crime is equivalent to chickenpox, and punishment is equivalent to smallpox. And author says, okay, somebody has committed a crime. It is equivalent to the state or to a situation where somebody has chickenpox. Now, what is your response? You punish him. So essentially, what you are doing is you are giving him or inoculating him with smallpox. How is that logical? This is author's argument. So he has based his argument on an analogy between crime punishment and chickenpox, smallpox. So in order to weaken his argument, we will have to challenge this analogy. If we can somehow challenge this analogy, we will be able to weaken the author's argument. Option A, imprisonment is not widely regarded as an act of cruelty. It supports the author's argument. Author himself says that imprisonment is not seen as an act of evil, and that is his problem, author's problem. Author says that imprisonment is an act of evil, but people don't see it as an act of evil. So A is in sync with author's argument. It supports the author's argument rather than weakens it. Option B, chickenpox and burglary are not analogous evils, exactly what we are looking for. The analogy between chickenpox and crime and burglary has been challenged by option B. They are not analogous, they are not similar. If they are not similar, author cannot base his argument on an analogy between chickenpox and burglary. Therefore, option B weakens the author's argument. Option C, imprisonment does not cause malicious injury. Now, this is a tempting choice, guys, because author does say in the first paragraph that imprisonment is also equal to malicious injury. But however, remember, and this is an important point for you to consider, if I say that Mr. X is a bad PM, and you are asked to weaken my argument that Mr. X is a bad PM, you cannot simply add a negative word, Mr. X is not a bad PM, and expect that my argument is weakened. By simply adding a negative word in my argument, you do not weaken my argument. It is a simple refutation of the argument, but you have not been able to weaken my argument. The same is true for option C. Author says imprisonment is malicious injury, and by saying that imprisonment does not cause malicious injury, you are not weakening his argument. You are simply adding a negative word in his argument. You're only refuting the argument, not weakening it really. Therefore, option C is insufficient to weaken the argument. Option B is better. It challenges the premise itself. Option D, sentences of imprisonment are given rarely. So what? Even if they are given rarely, they are still bad according to the author. So author's argument will still hold true even if the sentences of imprisonment are given rarely these days. So irrelevant. It has no impact on author's argument. Option 4. The author apparently believes that people at the time he wrote the passage were what? Okay. Option A, they were inclined to consider poverty a social evil. Opposite. That is his main argument in the second paragraph. People tolerate poverty. It is stupid levity with which people tolerate poverty. He says that people are stupid, that they tolerate poverty. They don't consider it social evil. It is. So it is opposite to author's argument. Option B, people were in favor of unusually harsh punishment for all offenders. Extreme. We cannot infer that people were in favor of harsh punishment, unusually harsh punishment for all offenders. Not really. This is an extreme argument. We can't infer it from any part of the second paragraph. People were too ready to judge other people unfairly. Wait. To judge other people, this is too broad. Author's argument is limited to judgment of poor people. So yes, people were too ready to judge poor people unfairly, but are they willing to, or are they too ready to judge other people in general? We don't know. So this is too broad. Option D, they were inconsistent. People are inconsistent in their attitude towards poverty. Author uses this word in the last line. He says, on the one hand, people say, if a man is drunken, let him be poor. If he's not a gentleman, let him be poor. So they criticize poor people on the one hand. On the other hand, they say, blessed are the poor. Poor people are blessed. And author considers this an inconsistency in their attitude. So yes, according to the author, people at the time he wrote the passage were inconsistent in their attitude towards poverty. Option D should be the correct answer. Hope you enjoyed this passage. It was a challenging read. Hope you have understood the reasoning. Please like the video. If you think that you learned something from it, keep sharing, keep spreading word about TVM Academy. Thank you very much. Keep practicing, keep growing. Cheers to learning.